You know, I think this is one of the traits of a really good producer. Keep the talent happy.
Did he actually call himself the Talent?
Of course he did. He's Bill Murray, you fucking idiot.
Howdy, my name is Stee and welcome to my movie menu. Today I'm going to be talking about the 1993 Deja Vu classic, Groundhog Day. Now the whole reason that this movie happens is because Bill Murray, a weatherman, gets the weather wrong. So it turns out, by that logic, that whenever a weatherman gets the weather wrong, he has to relive the same day over and 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 over again until he becomes less of an asshole and gets himself a new girlfriend. Now Bill Murray seems surprised that he has to relive Groundhog Day all the time, but the movie's called Groundhog Day, not the events and days in and around Groundhog Day. Wait, that doesn't make sense. But nor does reliving the same day over and over again and changing the events within that original day. Because in theory, when you change an event in an original timeline, you create an alternate timeline, proceeding on from those events that you changed. And since he changes events in pretty much every single day that he's in, he would then create an alternate timeline from each new event, proceeding on from the original event. So each time that he creates a new event or changes something even slightly, he will then create an alternate, because there's so many tiny little changes of events and so many different timelines he creates to each other again. And of course, multiverse will eventually increase exponentially, tiny little changes of events and so many different changes of events and so many different timelines piled on top of each other and created one multiverse around this timeline, thus eventually causing the inevitable implosion of his own multiverse that he created from that original event. Half an hour into the film, when he's only on his second relive of the same day, he ends up putting himself in jail. Now how is he to know that he's going to wake up the next morning at home in his bed and he's not just going to wake up the next morning still in the jail cell? How does he know that this is permanent? And then by the fifth day he's using his powers for good old sexy fun times. Genius! And then on the sixth day he uses his memory to get loads and loads of money and then turn Clint Eastwood. The next day he tries to get to know the chick who's eventually going to help him out of his time loop thing, and really describes the stereotypical perfect Hollywood guy. And he takes notes, like the genius he is. Finds out her favourite drink, impresses her, but then at the next step he screws up. But it's okay, he just comes back the next day and tries it again and gets the next step, and then when he fails at that he comes back the next day and tries again, and then he comes back the next day and tries it again, and comes back the day after that, and continues on from the last point he was at, and then follows a very dodgy French accent. You know, this movie is really hard to talk about because it's just a load of random things happening that we as the viewer don't get to see the build up to. We just kind of get cut to the next Bill Murray adventure. Now when he finally gets Rita upstairs and everything's gone really well that day and he's finally gotten the rhythm down of what to say and what not to say and so on, he's kind of had a perfect run of the entire date that they've been on. He then decides that the best way to end their perfect day is for them to go at it. Whatever happened to ordering pizza and watching shitty movies on the couch? The fucking 90s ruined us. Then we're treated to a little montage of him getting slapped in the face, and we watch his fall from grace. This movie was pretty ace. Something, other word that rhymes with ace. So by this time in the film I've actually lost count of how many days it's been because the cuts have been so quick and I didn't really notice some of them. Sometimes it feels like the end of that day. Other times it feels like a completely new day. So I'm going to guess he's been there for about a month. And now he's going insane. He thinks that the groundhog is to blame, so he steals him and drives them both into a canyon. As you do. And the car explodes. And then comes the montage of the kind of deaths that both you and I know that we would do if we knew that we'd wake up the next morning safe and sound. Toaster in the bathtub, jumping in front of a van, jumping from a high building. And he later professes to Rita that he has been burned, stabbed, shot, frozen, electrocuted, poisoned, hanged. He tries to tell her what's been happening to him and that he's immortal, but she doesn't believe him. He explains all he knows about her and then proves that he can predict what happens next. which in a way isn't really proof at all. I mean, you can look up pretty much anything about anybody, ring some people in their lives, ask them questions about them, and pay a couple people to drop a tray in 10 minutes when you give them the nod. But anyway, she spends the day by his side, and he shows her things that are going to happen, blah blah blah, and she ends up believing him fully. Now it's at this point when we're told that it's been at least 6 months, because they're sitting on the bed flicking cards into a hat, and she says to him that you're really good at this, and he says, oh well, yeah, well that's if you have 6 months of nothing else to do. That was my Bill Murray impression. You like it? Thanks. So we can gather from this that it's been at least 6 months since he started reliving Groundhog Day. They're sitting on the bed and they're talking, and she ends up changing his perspective on the whole everlasting life thing, and that he should make the most of it. And as she drifts off to sleep, he professes her love to her, but she doesn't fully hear him. And the next morning he wakes up alone. Again. So over the next few repeats of the same day, he tries to do everything good for everybody. Now coming to the end of the film, I estimate that he's been around for at least 2 years, because he's learned both piano and ice sculpting. But then again, he is Bill Murray, so it could have just been a week. So on the very last day that he relives, he does everything right. He stops the kid falling from the tree, he fixes the tire on the car for the old chicks, stops the mayor from choking, lights a cigarette for the woman behind him, helps Ned out, and then rocks the proverbial socks off the entire town on the piano. He sculpts Rita's face in ice, and you can see that she falls for him, and he's finally found happiness. And he's free! Turns out all he had to do was cheer the fuck up. The moral of the story here, kids, is cheer the fuck up, or you'll be stuck in the same dismal, changeless place for the rest of your life. Wow. We just had a moment there. Did you feel it? Yeah. You're welcome. All in all, I give this movie a 7 out of 10. I mean, it's a good movie. It's got some pretty good funny bits in it. It's got Bill Murray in it. That's all you really need to know. But there's one thing that's always bugged me about the film. Bear with me. Okay. So Bill Murray's had, let's say, about 2 years with Rita, okay? So he knows the ins and outs of her. He knows everything that makes her tick. He knows everything about her, right? And you can tell that over that time, he's come to fall in love with her. But she has known him all of 2 days. The first day when they met in the studio for the first time, and then the second day being their trip to this town for Groundhog Day. And yet after only 2 days, she's suddenly in love with him. My name is Stee, and thank you for joining me. If you have any suggestions on other movies you'd like for me to talk about, leave them in the comment section below. Did you hear that? I am so professional. Bye now.